Satan, the adversary, the prince of this world and the father of lies. Often thought of as the arch-villain of Christianity, Satan is a figure that every Christian and most non-Christians have at least a basic understanding of. But as one starts to dive deeper into theology, they inevitably run into a question. Why does Satan exist? After all, if God is all-powerful and all-good, and Satan is the epitome of evil, then why doesn't God just blast him out of existence and be done with it? Does God need to keep Satan around for some reason? Every Christian has to deal with these questions at some point. Some ignore them, brushing them off with a pleasant Bible verse, while others struggle with these questions in their hearts, and in some cases end up leaving the faith altogether as a result. My name is Tyler Johnson. I'm 19 years old, a student of computer science at North Carolina State University, and a devout Roman Catholic, and today I'm here to give a conclusive answer to these questions. No, God does not need Satan, and over the course of this video I will do my best to explain why God keeps him around regardless. But before we can answer these questions, we have to preface this discussion with an understanding of good and evil. After all, if Satan is the epitome of evil, it's important to know exactly what that means. In the Christian worldview, evil is not a separate force that opposes good. Rather, it is the absence of good, in the same way that dryness is the absence of water. More specifically, it's when good is missing. In other words, there should be something good there, but there isn't. Furthermore, this objective moral good must be perfectly aligned with God's will. God is the pure act of existence, the source of everything, who by definition lacks nothing, including good. And since evil is a lack of good, God cannot be evil in any way. God is the source of all good, and therefore he himself must be perfect goodness. If this doesn't make sense, I don't blame you. These are some pretty abstract concepts. If you want to know more, I would suggest The Metaphysics of Good and Evil by David Oderberg, or Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. What matters is that evil is in essence the opposition of God's will, and this is why Satan is considered the embodiment of evil. He opposes God in everything he does, constantly trying to work against God's will. With that out of the way, we can address the question at hand. Does God need Satan? The answer is no. What for? To sustain himself? Of course not. God existed long before the devil. Does he need Satan as a figure of evil to give meaning to good? Also no. Remember, good is not defined by evil, it's actually the other way around. Does God need Satan in order for his plan of salvation to work? Again, the answer is no. The devil is not the source of evil. Evil doesn't have a source. You can still steal, murder, and commit arson without Satan, because sin is a choice, and it's a choice anyone can make. If you want more proof, consider how rarely Satan appears in any of the Gospels. There are only 2 times when he actually appears, when he's tempting Jesus in the desert, and when he conspires with Judas to betray Jesus to the Pharisees. And even then, Satan was not necessary. Judas was already an immoral man corrupted by greed. He could easily have sold Jesus' life of his own accord. Satan just gave him a nudge to where he was probably going to end up eventually. God never needed Satan. Of course, that answer only raises another question. If God doesn't need Satan, why does God allow him to exist? And to properly understand the answer to that question, we need to first understand exactly what power Satan has, or rather, lack of power. Because that's the thing, Satan is powerless. He does not overcome us by threat, nor by force, nor by compulsion. He cannot compel us to do things, and he cannot compel us to think things. All he can do is lie. That's why John 8:44 calls him the father of lies. It's the only inherent ability that Satan has. He can arouse our passions and whisper in our ear, but the final decisions always rest with us. When it's said in 2 Corinthians that he can blind the minds of unbelievers, it doesn't mean he puts some sort of spiritual shroud of darkness around their souls. Rather, he affirms the lack of faith that's already there. He gives them confidence in their unbelief. Sure, he's called the God of this world, but what more is that than a title? Satan can't raise mountains, nor can he split the sea. In fact, the only time it's ever mentioned in Scripture that he has any sort of actual power is in the book of Job, where God grants him that power temporarily. On his own, Satan can do nothing but lie. He does not have power unless it is given to him. So, circling back to our original question, when we ask why God lets Satan exist, what we're really asking is, why does God let Satan lie? And to that answer, I provide this short parable. Imagine you're taking a final exam in a classroom. The teacher stands at his desk, watching over all of his students. As you begin to write down your answers, the person next to you leans over and begins to whisper what he thinks the answers are. The teacher sees this, and he knows that student. He knows that student has never understood the material, never gotten a single question right, and is constantly trying to bring other students down with him so that he can feel better about himself. And yet, the teacher doesn't stop him. Why? Simple. If you truly understand the material, you'll know that student is wrong and won't bother listening to him. But if you do listen, then that shows you don't actually understand the material and deserve to fail anyway, because a good teacher doesn't just want you to pass, he wants you to understand. Satan does not make anyone more flawed. Rather, he exposes the flaws that are already there. In this way, Satan acts like a filter, proving the conviction of those strong in their faith while exposing the shallow faith of others. He's not necessary, but he does provide use. This is even supported biblically. At the Last Supper, Jesus said to Simon that Satan demanded to have him, that he might sift him like wheat. A sieve is a tool that is used to separate edible parts of the grain from the inedible, the good from the bad. Jesus, in a single statement, affirms the purpose of Satan in God's plan. This is even beneficial for the people who fall through the filter. Those that might have never known how weak their faith really was now get a chance to build one stronger. If God were to remove Satan, all of those people might be lost. And for what gain? Satan does not make the final outcome any worse. Removing Satan would not save any extra person. It would just make it easier to hide our own wickedness. So, no, Satan is not necessary, but he is a test, and that might scare a lot of people. Honestly, I understand. It can feel scary to know that you're being tested day in and day out for your entire life. But the thing to remember is that this is an open book test. Literally, we have the book. We have the church. And even if you fail once, you always get a second chance, because being willing to take that second chance is the real test. It doesn't matter what you've done in life. You can always turn to Christ for forgiveness. God has given us all the answers. We just need to put our faith in Him. Not by our will, Lord, but by yours. I hope this was able to help some people. I never thought I'd make a video like this. I mean, you can see the types of videos I have on this channel. There's not that many of them. They're pretty funny though, you should check them out. But regardless, I've been diving deeper into my faith and theology recently, and I felt moved to make this video. Whether you're a Christian wrestling with these questions, or someone who struggles with Christianity in general, I hope this video was able to give you the answers you need. God bless.